family on my mother's side were musicians. You know, like my grandfather played organ and piano, and we always had a piano in the house. So we had an old upright piano, and you know, I guess when I was maybe 7, I'd tinker with it a little bit. But by the time I was 10 or 11, I started trying to play, and you know, like at that time it was rhythm and blues and rock and roll. It was this really fine line. So you had people like Chuck Berry. I always liked Chuck Berry's, the kind of music. But the piano, Little Richard, I was influenced by my grandfather. I had 2 great aunts. One played piano, and one played pump organ, you know, where you got to push the air in, sort of like an accordion. Yeah. So one of those, I used to try to play that a bit. I did a couple of talent shows in junior high school. You know, I tried to play some tunes like, but I liked all kind of music. Like I like ballads, you know, I like movie themes. Like you go to the movie and some of those themes at that time, you know, the love songs and the violins. Like I like violins. You know, that's probably why I like organ, because I can move the chords around, you know, like the same chord, but I can move it around a bit. And I had a friend lived on the other end of the building I lived in. We lived in, like I said, I'm from Portsmouth, Virginia. So my father passed away, and I guess I was about 10. And we had the old piano with us, and we moved to the projects, where we moved to, because they have a lot of projects in Virginia. You know, they got, I lived in, it was called Outer B. Barber Park. So I think Outer B. Barber is a black figure, but I'm not sure. But you know, just like the name of my school was I.C. Norcom and S.H. Clark. So I figure these schools were named after, you know, it was named after. But a lot of times, you know, I didn't feel like I got the right information, you know, when you're growing up. And that's what we was talking about, Jim Crow, you know, and oppression, because the whole idea of Jim Crow is to oppress. You're not supposed to learn as good, and you're not supposed to do this and do that. But as a result, moving in Outer Barber Park, it was called, I had a buddy named Smitty. We were around the same age. So he lived in apartment B, I lived in apartment H. He used to come over to my place. We sat there and played, 2 of us on the same piano, you know. I thought he was very talented. And gosh, my uncle played in the gospel in the church, and your parents drag you off to the church. You go into church growing up down there. And so you hear the music, even if you don't play. It's in the community, it's in the neighborhood. You hear this gospel music, you hear these great choirs. And so I was around it. And when I was in high school in I.C. Norcom, I was in the high school choir, and we did traveling and different, well, not too, you know, not far away, but within Virginia. And we would sing at some of the different schools, and you know, so because you know, doing this make things dawned on me that I hadn't thought of. So it's as much of an education for me as it is for you guys. So I appreciate that. I play Hammond organ. That's my love. I play 25-foot pedals and 2 manuals, and I have more fun. I think I took after my grandfather, because my grandfather was an organ player. And there was always an organ and a piano in the house. And I used to go over there and, you know, try, you know, and mostly play by ear. I never took a lot of lessons. But I would just try to play tunes. But as I got older, you learn about theory. I've been to some schools. I've gone to Humber. I've gone to the Royal Conservatory. I've had private teachers to try to enhance. Always trying to enhance what I have. So not on a one-to-one basis, but as far as a group basis and an overall basis, I would say that the folks were always very friendly to the musicians, because you're a musician. But I mean, like the rooms, some places the rooms were terrible, and it's like almost like my heart. It's the way my heart perceives what happened, and I know a lot of things were really, really happening, but by the time you get in there, play the music, pack up the gear, and you're gone. Because it's not like, usually when I would play out of town, I would be at one place for like a week. And as long as, we played the job, got paid, didn't worry too much about the rooms. No one really discriminated, like I don't have an anger in me because I wasn't personally discriminated on, but the Jim Crow laws, that's just discrimination, and everybody's involved in it. And I actually believe it's grown, but it's taken on a different face, because it said slavery had a lot of names. It fell under Jim Crow and inequality. It was called the peculiar institution. It was called the impediment. And it seems that these days, most of the world is under Jim Crow because there's a lot of folks that's not comfortable with whatever. Like there's so many things that you can be uncomfortable with. But the day came that everywhere in Virginia that you couldn't go, you could go. I remember that, like the movies we were showing, or the Commodore wasn't on there, but we ended up could go down to those movies. And really, what I really noticed is that in most cases, it's not the people that's prejudiced and uptight. It's the whole overall system, the Jim Crow system that confuse people, and it don't tell the truth, and it don't tell it like it is, and you end up with an untruth. And, people base their lives on something that really, really ain't true. And it scares people. I got a great buddy, plays with Rod Stewart. He's a saxophone player. And he's from Virginia. And him and I keep in touch. And he was just up here with Rod Stewart. And Rod Stewart was at the Air Canada Center, I believe. And he came down to where I was playing, and we don't get a chance to play together every day. And it was just like we never stopped playing, And I think the last time him and I played together was in California. I went to California and hung out with him. And then, he was up here, and I think that was in '98 when I was in California. So he was just here a couple of months ago. So we had a chance. And he's playing one of my songs that I wrote on YouTube. If you go on YouTube and look for Jimmy Roberts' Last of the Blues. So he called me, asked me, could he do that song? He said, I just fell in love with your song. It's a ballad, and it's got lyrics. I sing it, but he's doing an instrumental version of it. another one is another buddy named Jim, who's a saxophone player. Him and I started a club called the Rex on Queen Street downtown. And we started that club, and it's still going on. We started it in '88, and the Rex is still there, going strong. But we used to be the only band there. So that was, and we was there like maybe 3 nights a week, and we actually had it on another night, so it was 4. And we just played stuff we wrote. I had that Hammond organ down there with me, and we played other people's stuff by Thelonious Monk, stuff by, gosh, there's so many, some of the, we just picked tunes that we really liked and just did our interpretation of, my stuff, his stuff, other people's stuff. If a song is good, if it's a nice song, you can play it a lot of different ways, man. You can swing it, you can Latin it, you can reggae it, you can funk it, you can, did I say swing it?
We started with swing, but it's always good to come back.
Yeah, you can, it's all in what you want it to sound like, you can, let me think of a tune. See, now this is a song by Thelonious Monk. This is called Rhythming. So it goes, it's in the jazz vein. It's two different melodies, but it's the same rhythm, chords that under it. But if I played that tune, and let's say I did a little Latin version of it, it would be. I could have picked a different tune. But anyway, that gives you just a little quick idea. Well, I met him in a movie, because I do film sometimes, and I was with the scene where he does John the Revelator. It's this choir singing, "Who's that riding John the Revelator? Who's that riding John the Revelator? Who's that
riding John the Revelator? Who's that riding John the Revelator? Who's that riding John the Revelator? He wrote the book of the 7 seals."
So that scene where everybody's dancing and they're supposed to have gotten the Holy Ghost, and they're jumping and flipping up and dancing, and the Black Blues Brother in the Blues Brothers 2000, James Brown and Sam Moore, who's also had hits, him and others, Sam and Dave they were called. And they were supposed to have been trying to change the black blues brother because he had been chasing, like he was the chief of police, right? And he's chasing the blues brothers all over the place. So James Brown and Sam Moore, it's called rebuke. So they're rebuking this evil spirit out of the blues brother. And that scene, that's how I met James Brown. Because he likes organ, and I was supposed to play an organ in that scene, but the producer decided that the organ was too large, so I ended up using a synthesizer. So I like to stand up when I play synth, so I had a chance to, when he came right to me and hugged me on Night Train, he mentions what the song is about is them traveling on the road in all of the different states that they go to. So one of the states that he would come a lot is Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia. And the place that he used to come is called the Arena. The Arena would be like the Air Canada Center, but I think it's not that big, it ain't that big. But it's, that's where they did concerts in Norfolk, Virginia. So he mentions Night Train. He mentions Norfolk, Virginia. He says, so when you hear him sing Night Train and you hear him say Norfolk, VA, that's what he's talking about. And I don't know, but he really seemed to know me though. You can't go wrong with Ella Fitzgerald. She's before my time. But actually, she's from Newport News, Virginia. She's from there. She mostly grew up in New York, but I think she was in Newport News till she was 11. Lady singer, male singer, piano player, guitar player. Gosh, there's so many bass players. Okay. I would say it would be great to listen to. Piano-wise, I think Thelonious Monk plays some real interesting stuff. There's a great organ player who's sort of like the jazz father of organ players, is Jimmy Smith. I would say Jimmy Smith on organ. You got Pat Metheny on guitar. He's a great guitar player. Drums. You got Elvin Jones and rhythm and blues. James Brown, come with the James Brown, that band. James Brown had a great band, and the saxophone player, Maceo Parker. I saw Maceo Parker in Toronto, and it's like listening to James Brown without James Brown. It's just a great band. Of course, Billie Holiday. I also like a singer named Nancy Wilson. She's from the old school. I know it's so many people I'm leaving out right here. That was a great question. I like Tower of Power in the 70s. There was a band called Tower of Power. I think one of their songs is called What Is Hip? Great title, What Is Hip? Because what's here today, it changed tomorrow, it just changed it. But everything is still part of what already happened. Because when I was growing up, it was rhythm and blues, and I wasn't even listening to gospel music really then. I knew of it and I was around it, and I would hear it and I dug it. But what was happening at the time was Chuck Berry, Little Richard. You're a teenager. We were teenagers. A little before I was a teenager. Then the music starts breaking. You hear the Everly Brothers. You hear the ice started breaking. It's like that's what that melting pot. That's where the music started changing right in there. You know, it's like let me see, 1955. I was 10. In 11, right in there. You know, I even got a guitar. I remember trying to play Wake Up Little Susie by the Everly Brothers. Dang, dong, 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 right? And it didn't have this, you know, like the proper fingering. Just tune all 6 strings in a chord, and just use your finger as a clamp, right? Bang, and then you can play the Everly Brothers. Bang, dong, bang, dong, bong, bong, bong. I met so many different people, especially being in Toronto, of every nationality. I believe I've shaken hands or gave somebody a hug from every corner of the earth. I believe that.